ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपादकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। Welcome to our weekly study of Bhagavad Gita. Actually, we are continuing to read from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, entitled as Sankhya Yoga. Also, Prabhupada translates in English as Contents of Gita Summarized. So, this particular this particular chapter contains 5 sections of Bhagavad Gita. So, the first section is Arjuna's, surrender to Krishna. The relationship in the beginning of second chapter. So Arjuna, come to this, indecision. He didn't know what to do. He gave reasons for not fighting the war in the first chapter. After giving all those reasons, but still he was, not conclusive what to do. He got, confused. He became indecisive. And then because of that indecision, he doesn't know what to do, because he had come to this battlefield to fight. After seeing, especially, his grandfather and his guru and all the relatives assembled on the opposite side to fight him, he got overwhelmed with compassion, and then he was fear of sinful reaction by killing his elders, and then, loss of enjoyment by killing. He will not be able to enjoy the kingdom, which will be tainted with blood. And then, destruction of family tradition. When all the elders are killed, right, there won't be anybody to protect women and children. That will produce unwanted progeny, Varna Shankara. So because of, unwanted progeny, they will not offer food and water to elders, ancestors. And then because of this, all type of social welfare will be finished. When we do not get blessings from, our ancestors, our, future looks, very dim. So hence Arjuna gave all these reasons based on scripture. But in the beginning of second chapter, he said, I don't know what to do. To kill or to be killed by all these Kauravas. Right? And he surrenders to Krishna. Krishna, I am a soul surrendered to you. I am a disciple of you. Please accept me as your disciple. Please instruct me what is ultimately good for me. Because there is no one in this three world who can dispel my doubt other than you, Krishna. When he surrenders, then Krishna speaks. No, disciple means to be disciplined. He disciplines Arjuna, saying that you spoke like a learned Pandita, but it is not befitting of you. You are coming, you behave like a Anarya. Arya means one who knows the value of life. Anarya means one who does not know the value of life, right? So Arya means civilized person. Civilized person means one knows the importance of human life, right? After many births, after going through, 9 million species, 8 million species, right? 80 lakh species of life. Jalajana Valakshani, Stavar Laksham Krimayo Rudra Sankyaga, Trimshal Lakshani Pashavaga, Chadur Lakshani Manavaga. After going through 80 lakh species, then finally one comes to human species of life. It's very rare to attain human species. Only in human species of life, our discrimination properly works, right? So we saw that, in the beginning itself, in the introduction to Gita philosophy, we saw that, there are 4 things common to all species of life. Ahara Nedra Bayamaitanam cha Samanya Metat Pashubir Naranam. Eating, mating, sleeping, and defending are common to all species of life. Dharme hitesham adhige vishesho dharme hihina pashubir shamanam. The one which differentiates human beings from other species of life is ability to inquire into dharma, the ability to use this faculty of discrimination, understanding what is right, what is not right, what is good, what is bad, what is happiness, what is suffering. Animals also have intelligence, but their intelligence is used predominantly to fulfill eating, mating, sleeping, defending only. But only human being has this special ability to rise above the struggle for eating, mating, sleeping, defending, and to make this inquiry: why am I suffering? That is the purpose of human life. So Krishna says, one Arya means civilized person, one who knows the human form of life. Only in human form of life who can make this inquiry. What is that inquiry? Right? Krishna says the beginning of all spiritual knowledge, from verses 2.11 to 2.30, he gives the Atma Jnana, knowledge of the soul, knowledge of the self. First, he starts with the principle of we are not this body, we are all eternal spirit soul. Natve vagam jatunasam natvam neme chanatipaga nachavena bhavishyamaga sarve vayam ataparam. Right? So there was never a time I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. Right? So there will never be a time we will all cease to exist. So this is the first principle Krishna gives. So this is very important principle to understand that we are not this body. We are spirit soul. Until we come to this platform of understanding that we are not this body, we are eternal spirit souls, spirituality doesn't begin. Where the material science ends, spiritual science begins. What is the most unanswered question in modern science? Modern science, kind of started around 300, 400 years ago during Renaissance in Europe. Right? What is the most unanswered question in science today? What is the source of life? That is the most unanswered question. The most fundamental unanswered questions. We might be able to go to, moon, we might be able to go to Mars, we might be able to do this, do that, but still the most fundamental question which is not answered by modern science is what is the cause of life? The equivalent of this modern science is nothing but analyzes the material nature and explains things around us, how things work. So the equivalent of this modern science in the Vedic philosophy is Sankhya, analytical study of matter and spirit. The people who have studied this matter and spirit, right, they had come to a conclusion. What is that conclusion? Even if you search, like by combination, permutation, all combination of matter cannot produce life. The cause of life is not matter. Something other than matter is the cause of life. The moment we accept this, the spiritual science begins. Where the material science ends, spiritual science begins. This is the beginning of spiritual science. What is that? I am not this body, I am eternal spirit soul. Then one might ask the question, if I am not this body, right, I am eternal spirit soul, then what is this body? Krishna in the next verse says, right, Deginosmin yata dehe gaumaram yavvanam jara tada dehandra praptir dhirastatra namuhyati. Right? He says that as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly at the time of death, the soul moves on to another body. One has to learn to, no, this actually one should not be bewildered by such a change. So when you put this eternal spirit soul and temporary material body, there is incompatibility. What is it, incompatibility? Krishna tells in the next verse, Matra sparshastu kaunteya sidoshana shukudakkada agama paino anityastamta pradiksha bharata. The non-permanent appearance of happiness and suffering in this world is like changing seasons, summer and winter. They arise due to sense perception. One has to learn to tolerate. This toleration is the key to unlock the spiritual life. If we do not tolerate the so-called happiness and suffering in this world, we will not be able to focus on the goal of life. If we get elated by the temporary happiness in this world, or if we get dejected or depressed by the temporary suffering in this world, we will not be able to focus on the goal of human life. That is understanding, who I am, who is God, what is the relationship between me and God, how to re-establish that forgotten relationship. So all the Atma Jnana Krishna gives in the second section. Then the third section, Krishna gave Karma Kanda. Even if you are not interested in spirituality, if you are simply interested in enjoyment, still for Kshatriya it is better to fight. Because when there is a war, when a Kshatriya is challenged for a war, he grabs that opportunity immediately. Because in the war, if he wins, he'll be able to, enjoy the victory. But if he loses and dies in the war, he'll be elevated to higher planets. Either way, it is a win-win for a Kshatriya when somebody is challenged for a war. So then Krishna gives in the Buddhi Yoga, right, section 4. That's the section we are in. So he said Vedas predominantly deals with these three modes of nature, and all these flowery words in Vedas is for material enjoyment. One has to rise above these three modes. Krishna says, Arjuna, one should not get distracted by the flowery words of Vedas. Predominantly all the Vedic, sacrifices and everything is for sense enjoyment. One has to come to the conclusion. Krishna says how, he gives the analogy, right? How the purpose of many wells can be served by a great reservoir of water, a lake. Similarly, the purpose of all the Vedas, one understands the purpose behind it, then, one can come to the conclusion. What is the purpose of Vedas? The purpose of Vedas is to know Krishna. Krishna later will tell in several times in Bhagavad Gita, right? He says that, right, Sarvasya chaham hiridi shanni vishto matas smritir jnanam apoganam cha vedaisha charver aham veve vedyo vedanta kritveda videva chaham. Vedaisha charver aham veve vedyo. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the knower of all the Vedas. I am the compiler of Vedanta. So by all the Vedas is to know Krishna. The purpose of the Vedas is to know its purpose. Like, the purpose of many wells can be served by one great body of water. Right? So Krishna gives that Buddhi Yoga, right? So we saw that, Nishkama Karma Yoga, there are two levels. One is just giving up the results. Karma Yoga is doing one's prescribed duty in connection to God. There are two levels of Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga and Shakama Karma Yoga. Shakama Karma Yoga means when does his duty, right, with attachment to the results. Once he has enough knowledge that the attachment to the results, causes further suffering, entanglement. If I give up attachment to the fruits of the results of the work I am doing, then there is no entanglement, karmic entanglement. When he comes to this platform, that is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. He gives up the results. And then again, Nishkama Karma Yoga, there are two levels. One is that, just giving up the results. Another is to understand that all the results belongs to God. Hence, everything should be utilized in service of God. So the perfection of Nishkama Karma Yoga is engaging everything in service of the Supreme Lord. That is what in this Buddhi Yoga section Krishna is giving. So we covered up to verse, I think 40. I think 48, right? I believe.
Yeah, we covered, I think 47 is what we covered.
47 we covered. Now, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. So this is a very famous verse. Most of the people, if you ask them what is the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, they just quote this verse. Karmanyeva adhikaraste. Right? They just stop there. Right? So you have the right to perform duty. So do your duty, that is actually teaching of Bhagavad Gita. The next part of it, right? People forget it, right? But you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Right? Ma karma phala heturbur. Ma teshu shanga va akarmani. Right? Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. So we will continue from 48 now. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhyanta siddhyo samabhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Yogastha, equipoised, kuru, perform, karmani, your duty, sangam, attachment, tyaktva, giving up, dhananjaya, O Arjuna, siddhi asiddhoyaha. Right? In success and failure, samaha, equipoised, bhutva, becoming, samatvam, equanimity, yoga, uchyate is called. Translation or purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Here Krishna is defining, right? What is this yoga? Right? This Buddhi Yoga is telling, do not get affected by the results. Just do your duty. Now, what should I do with the results? I should simply engage in the service of the Lord. Krishna purport. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga. And this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such he is participating in the Varnashrama Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashrama Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashrama. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him. So this is such an important thing to understand, So when we say prescribed duty, this karma yoga means doing our prescribed duty in connection to God. What is our prescribed duty? So that is also given, right? The social, there are 4 social orders and then 4 spiritual statuses, right? Varna and ashrama. There are 4 varnas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. There are 4 social statuses. And then the brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. The four stages of life. So this constitutes varna and ashrama. Depending on one's varna and ashrama, one has a prescribed duty. As a brahmachari in a student life, one has a prescribed duty. One family life, somebody has a prescribed duty. In one vanaprastha life, one has prescribed duty, and sannyasi also has a prescribed duty. And then depending on one's social position, social order, as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, or Shudra, they have different duties. But the purpose of discharging all these duties is to satisfy the Supreme Lord, right? That's what Vishnu Purana says. The purpose of all the Varnashrama is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. That's what Srimad Bhagavatam also says, right? So here, because Arjuna is participating in the Varnashrama, here he is asked simply to follow the instruction of Krishna, right? That is what the purpose of whole Varnashrama is. Here Krishna is directly there to tell Arjuna what to do. So there is no need to worry about anything else. So next verse, 49. Durenaki avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhau sharanam anvicha kripana phalahetavaha. Translation: Oh Dhananjaya, Durena, discard it at a long distance. He certainly avaram, abominable karma, activity, buddhi yogat. On the strength of Krishna consciousness, Dhananjaya, O conqueror of wealth, Buddha, in such consciousness, Sharanam, full surrender, Anvicha, try for, Kripanaha, misers, Phala Hetavaha, those desiring fruitive results. Translation: O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport: one who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements, saving working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their work, just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. Because we saw that there are three types of karma. Karma, activities which are prescribed in the scriptures, and then vikarma, activities which are prohibited in the scriptures. Karma gives the positive results, punya. When we do, there will be positive results. Vikarma is papa. When we do, there will be negative results. And the third type of karma is akarma. When we do those activities, it does not produce any results, any reactions. It does not produce any reactions. Not only that, it will burn up all the stockpile of our existing both positive and negative reactions. Akarma is the one Krishna is asking Arjuna to perform. The whole theme of Bhagavad Gita is performing this akarma. And when we perform this akarma as a service unto the Supreme Lord, actually that is Bhakti Yoga. Right? That is what Buddhi Yoga Prabhupada is telling here. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord. The word it is used here for miser is called kripana. Kripana means narrow-minded person or miser. The opposite of word kripana is brahmana, a broad-minded person. One who understands that I am the spirit soul, I has to engage in the service of the super soul. So that is my constitutional position, right? So that is the conclusion. That is the conclusion of Brahmanical study. That understanding that Supreme Lord is everything, I am eternal servant of Him. So the purpose of the part is to serve the whole. This is our constitutional position. So person who do not understand, right? So they are actually misers. Misers means, they are like, when they are attached to the fruits of the work, to enjoy the fruits of the work, they are entangled further in the cycle of birth and death. Both Papa and Punya, they are two sides of the same coin. They further entangle us in the cycle of birth and death. So next verse. Buddhi yukto jagati hai ube shukrta duskrite tashmat yogaya yujyasva yoga karmashu kaushalam. Buddhi yukta hai. One who is engaged in devotional service, jagati, can get rid of in this life, ube, both sukrute duskrute, good and the bad result. Tasmat, therefore, yogaya, for the sake of devotional service, yujyasva, be so engaged, yoga, Krishna consciousness, karmashu, in all activities, kaushalam, art. Translation. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. Since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Sri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. See, the nature of the living entity is to be active. We can't be inactive. We have to always do something. But any activity we do, there is always a reaction. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative. But the same activity, if it is performed in the proper consciousness, that activity does not produce reaction. This is the secret of whole Gita. You may not have to do something differently than other than I do. I might be working in Microsoft or Google or Facebook or in a bank as an auditor, as a whatever it is, right? Whatever our social position is. The only thing is that the consciousness has to be proper. If it is done as a service to Krishna, if he knows one how to connect the results of the work in service to Krishna, that work which is binding becomes liberating, which is purifying. So this is the secret. Krishna consciousness means any activity we do, either it should be directly connected to Krishna. If it is not directly connected to Krishna, the results should be utilized in serving Krishna. Either directly or indirectly, everything should be connected to Krishna. If that is done, that activity is called Krishna consciousness. And that consciousness, that activity is the process which purifies all our activities from both Papa and Punya. There is no more reactions. We are performing akarma. 51. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gachanti anamayam. Translation, synonyms. Karmajam, due to fruitive activities, buddhi yuktaha, being engaged in devotional service, he certainly phalam, results. Tyaktva, giving up, manishinaha, great sages or devotees. Janma bandhaha, from the bondage of birth and death. Vinir muktaha, liberated, padam, position, gachanti, they reach, anamayam, without miseries. Translation. Thus, by engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries. That means they go back to Godhead. They go back to spiritual world. That is the ultimate state. Purport. The liberated living entities belong to the place where there are no material miseries. The Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, 58th verse says, Samashrita ye pada pallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murare bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam yat vipadam na tesham. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of cosmic manifestation and is famous as Mukunda or giver of Mukti, the ocean of material world is like the water contained in the calf's footprint. Parampadam, or the place where there are no material miseries, or Vaikunta is the goal and not the place where there is danger in every step of life. So this verse, right, gives this secret. When a living entity continuously performs devotional service, does all his activities by taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, what happens? He becomes, the Lord becomes the mukti giver, Murari, right? Murari means one who gives liberation. Mukunda means one who gives liberation. Right? When we surrender, this material energy is very difficult to overcome. In the 7th chapter, when we read, we will understand, Daiviyeshu gunamayi mamamaya duratyaya. Mamyevaye prapatyante maya metam tarantite. This material energy is very, very difficult to overcome for the conditioned living entities. But Krishna says, if you surrender unto me, then you can easily cross beyond it. How? As Bhagavatam says, once he takes the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, right, this material ocean becomes like water in the hoof of a calf print. It gets shrunken. One can easily cross beyond it. Right? So when he does that, right, when we cross this material ocean, what happens? We go to Parampadam. Parampadam means there is no more material miseries. Vaikunta. Vaikunta means what? Kunta means miseries. Vaikunta means no miseries. That abode of the Supreme Lord, when we go there, there is no more birth, death, old age and disease. There is no more 3 types of miseries: Adhyatmika klesha, Adi Bhaudika klesha, and Adi Daivika klesha. This material world is not the goal, because this world, material world, every step is a danger. Padam yat vipadam na tesham. This is not the goal. We cannot make this material world as our goal. This is a temporary place. We came here to this material world, right, because we wanted to enjoy independent of the Lord, which is not possible. One should realize this and use this material world as an opportunity to reform ourselves and go back to spiritual world. Owing to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. Out of ignorance only, less intelligent persons try to adjust to the situation by fruitive activities, thinking that the resultant actions will make them happy. They do not know that no kind of material body anywhere within the universe can give life without miseries. All the 14 planetary systems, anywhere, Abrahma Bhavana Aloka, all the way from topmost living entity in our universe, from Satyaloka, Brahmaji, to insignificant ant, all of them are going through, this Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Of course, in the higher planets, the miseries are less. But even then, even Brahma has a limited life. 100 years of his life is equivalent to 311 trillion 40 billion years for us. Even Brahma has a limited life only. Even that Brahma's life, even though it is very long duration for us, that is like one breathing time of Mahavishnu. So all the way from top to bottom, everybody has to go through this Adhyatmika, Adibhaudika and Adi Daivika Klesha. The miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age and disease, are present everywhere within the material world. But one who understands his real constitutional position as the servitor, eternal servitor of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into the Vaikuntha planets, where there is neither material, measurable life, nor the influence of time and death. To know one's constitutional position means to know also the sublime position of the Lord. No one who wrongly thinks that living entity's position and the Lord's position are on the same level is to be understood to be in darkness and therefore unable to engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. He becomes a Lord himself and thus paves the way for repetition of birth and death. Right? Ishwaroham ahambohi siddhovan balavan chuki. Later in the 15th chapter, Krishna explains the divine and demoniac nature. Ishwaroham, right? I am the controller. Siddhoham, I am perfect. Balavan, right? I am very powerful. Right? I am the enjoyer. Ishwaroham aham bohi. Aham bohi means I am the enjoyer. Everything is there for my enjoyment. So this is that mindset which brought us into this material world. We have to reform from this material, this attitude of I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, I am the everything. From this self-centered situation, one has to understand that Krishna is the center of everything. I am simply his part and parcel. Right? Otherwise, there is only repetition of birth and death. But one who understands that his position is to serve, transfers himself to the service of the Lord, at once becomes eligible to the Vaikuntha Loka. Service for the cause of the Lord is called Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, or in plain words, devotional service to the Lord. So this is the secret of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is there to help us to understand who we are, who the Supreme Lord is, what this material energy is, what is the relationship among all these three. And then once we understand our constitutional position as that I am part and parcel of the Supreme, the purpose of the part is to serve the world. When we engage in that loving devotional service, that qualifies us to go back to spiritual world. So this is called Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Yadate moha, next verse 52. Yadate moha kalilam buddhir vyati tarshyate gata tada gantasya nirvedam shrutasya yada, when they, your moha of illusion, kalilam, dense forest, buddhi, transcendental service with intelligence, Vyati tarishyati, surpasses tata, at that time, ganta asi, you shall go, nirvedam, callousness, shrotavyasya, toward all that is to be heard, shrutasya, all that is already heard, cha also. Translation: when your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of illusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. Purport: there are many good examples in the lives of great devotees of the Lord, of those who became indifferent to the rituals of the Vedas simply by devotional service to the Lord. When a person factually understands Krishna and his relationship with Krishna, he naturally becomes completely indifferent to the rituals of fruitive activities, even though an experienced Brahmana So Sri Madhavendra Puri, a great devotee and Acharya in the line of the devotee, says, Sandhya Vandane Badram Astu Bhavatu Po Snana Tubhyam Namo Bodeva Pitrascha Tarpana Viddau Naham Shama Shamayatam Yatra Kwapi Nishadya Yadva Kulotamsha Kamsha Dvishaha Shmaram Agam Harami Tadalam Manyekim Anyanemi. Right? Oh, my prayers 3 times a day, all glory to you. Basically, he's talking about Sandhya Vandane. Oh, bathing, I offer obeisances unto you. The process of purifying the body, right? Bathing. Oh, demigods, oh, forefathers, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respects. Now, wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of Yadu dynasty, Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, and thereby I can free myself from all sinful bondage. I think this is sufficient for me. He is telling, even though he is a great Brahmana, the Brahmana's duty to perform Sandhya Vandane every day, 3 times a day. He says, I respect you, all glories to you. And then he says the process of bathing the body, the process of offering respects to demigods and forefathers, right? He's saying, I am not interested in any of these things because I am constantly remembering the great descendant of Yadu dynasty, Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa. And thereby, because of my constant remembering of Supreme Lord, I will be relieved from all sinful bondage. And this is sufficient for me. I don't need anything else. Right? The ultimate purification process is purifying the soul by remembrance of the Supreme Lord. Right? Our contaminated consciousness to enjoy in this material world, when that is removed, we will understand our true position. Right? That's what he's saying. The Vedic rites and rituals are imperative for neophytes, comprehending all kinds of prayers 3 times a day, taking a bath early in the morning, offering respects to the forefathers, etc. But when one is fully in Krishna consciousness and is engaged in his transcendental loving service, one becomes indifferent to all these regulative principles because he has already attained perfection. If one can reach the platform of understanding by service to the Supreme Lord Krishna, he has no longer to execute different types of penances and sacrifices as recommended in the revealed scriptures. And similarly, if one has not understood that the purpose of the Vedas is to reach Krishna and simply engages in the rituals, etc., then he is uselessly wasting his time in such engagements. Persons in Krishna consciousness transcend the limit of Shabda Brahma or the range of the Vedas and Upanishads. Next verse. This is the last verse in this section. Buddhi Yoga. Shruti viparati pannate yada stashyate nischala samadho achala buddhis tada yogam avapsyasi. Shruti of the Vedic revelation, Vipratipanna, without being influenced by the fruitive activities. Te your yada when stashyati remains nischala, unmoved, samadho in transcendental consciousness or Krishna consciousness, achala, unflinching, buddhihi, intelligence, tata, at that time, yogam, self-realization, avapsyasi, you will achieve. Translation: when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. Purport: to say that one is in samadhi is to say that one has fully realized Krishna consciousness. That is, one in full samadhi has realized Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The highest perfection of self-realization is to understand that one is eternally the servitor of Krishna, and that one's only business is to discharge one's duty in Krishna consciousness. A Krishna conscious person or unflinching devotee of the Lord should not be disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, nor be engaged in fruitive activities for promotion to the heavenly kingdom. In Krishna consciousness, one comes directly into communion with Krishna, and thus all directions from Krishna may be understood in the transcendental state. There is One is sure to achieve results by such activities and attain conclusive knowledge. One has only to carry out the order of Krishna or his representative, the spiritual master. So this is the conclusion. The conclusion is simply we have to instruct as Krishna had said, or his representatives are guiding us. Spiritual master is nothing but the transparent via medium to Krishna. He is a representative, bona fide representative of the Supreme Lord is the spiritual master. When we act according to the instruction of Krishna or the spiritual master, our life attains perfection. So this is the secret of Bhagavad Gita. This is what Krishna had said in summary in the second chapter. Of course, Arjuna is going to ask more questions in connection to application. So then that will reveal the remaining chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So the next section is called Sthita Prajna, when Krishna says that one who attained, one who is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of Vedas, when he remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, so right, that means then one have attained the divine consciousness. Arjuna asked the questions, what are the symptoms of a person, such a person who attained divine consciousness? That is the next section, Sthita Prajna. Arjuna asked this question and Krishna answers, right? What are the symptoms of one who has consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? We will know about all these details. We will study all these details, this section, in the next week. Right? We will continue next week from the next section onwards. At this time, any comments, any questions?
Prabhuji, what do you mean by that equipoised?
Can you be a little louder? So I'm just, yeah, can I speak a little louder?
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji. So
Yes.
what is the meaning of equipoised, Prabhuji? The first verse, the Krishna told right in purport, we have to be equipoised. What does it mean?
Equipoised means, Krishna already elaborated in the second chapter, in the 14th and the 14th verse, Matrash Parshash Kaunteya Shidoshna Shukudakkada, Agama Paino Anitis Tamsatya Diksha Bharata. The non-permanent appearance of happiness and suffering in this world is like, changing summer and winter seasons. One has to learn to tolerate. Equipoised means when we perform our duty in connection to Krishna, the results are not in our hand. Whether it's a success or failure, we are not concerned about the result. The result is Krishna's concern. Our concern is to simply serve him. Right?
Okay.
When we are in that consciousness that I am simply an instrument to serve Krishna, What happens, what is the outcome, it is not in my hand. My duty is to serve nicely, do my duty properly. But what result will come, that is not in my hand. I should not get disturbed. Equipoised means neither in success nor in failure one should get distracted from the service of Krishna. Whether
Okay.
success or failure, honor or dishonor, happiness or suffering, right? Good or bad, one should be attached in serving Krishna. One should not get
Okay.
attached to the fruits of the work.
Another question is, so we have to do our prescribed duty, right? So, but we
Yes.
don't know what is a prescribed duty. We are just doing our jobs and also how do you know exactly what is a prescribed duty based on
Yes.
but
Yes.
yeah.
That's a very good question. As I said, the prescribed duty, the Vedas gives based on this Varna and Ashrama. Right? There are 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. According to one social order
Yes, Professor.
and a social, spiritual status, one has duty. But unfortunately, today we are actually not engaged. There are 2 types of duty, Swadharma and Swarupa Dharma. Swadharma is the duty of the body and mind. Swarupa Dharma is duty of the soul. The duty of the soul is to simply serve Krishna. But duty of the body, depending on whether I am father or mother or husband or wife or, employee of a company or whatever it might be, I have a duty. But the duty of the body is based on this Varna and Ashrama. But unfortunately, by the influence of time, by the invaders, right, this spiritual culture, the Varnashrama culture is destroyed in India. We do not know actually what to do or what not to do. We are all engaged in apata dharma. Apata dharma means emergency duty. Without knowing what actually our duty is, somehow we are put in a particular position and we are engaged in some duty. I become an engineer or a doctor or a husband or a wife or employer, employee, whatever it might be. We are put in a particular position. We are simply engaging in duty. They are called apata dharma. But one has to understand that my eternal duty is to serve the Supreme Lord. When we keep that consciousness, automatically we will realize over the period of time that what is favorable to our service to Krishna, what is unfavorable to service to Krishna. Whatever it might be favorable to service to Krishna, it can be accepted. Whatever is unfavorable to service to Krishna, that should be rejected.
Okay, Professor.
So we may not realize. So it's a very good, very, very pertinent question you asked. Now we are studying Gita. Now we know that we have to serve Krishna, but I also have a duty to take care of my family, right? I am working as an engineer in a company. I have a mortgage to pay. I have a loan to pay. I have to take care of these things. Yes, we have to do all those things. But the consciousness in which we do, if you do it as I am the enjoyer, that those duties will bind us. When we do it, those duties as a service to Krishna, if you know how to connect all these duties in connection to Krishna, for example, I have to take care of my children, right?
Yes.
So if I see that this child is a child of Krishna, is part and parcel of Krishna, by serving this child, I am serving Krishna. If you see in that connection, we can see everything in connection to Krishna. If you do that, then that activity is not binding.
Oh, it's very nice, Professor.
So over the period of time, we can figure out how to connect everything in service to Krishna. The only thing which changes is our consciousness. The activity might remain same. After coming to Krishna consciousness and before coming to Krishna consciousness, my activity might be same. Still I might be working in Microsoft. Still I might be, earning money and, taking care of family and doing all these things. But the consciousness is that I'm doing it as a service to Krishna. When that consciousness comes in, that becomes Krishna consciousness. That becomes liberating.
Okay, Professor.
So any other comments, questions at this time?
Prabhuji, one more thing. The surrendering to Krishna is a very big word, right? Prabhuji, what is the process to surrender to Krishna, Prabhuji?
It's a very, very good question. Krishna gives that ultimately in this 18th chapter, surrender to me. I will save you from sinful reaction. How to surrender? That is the whole subject of Bhagavatam. 18,000 verses. All the great devotees, how they have surrendered their will to the supreme will of Krishna by their examples. It's a gradual process, So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of the acharyas in our sampradaya, gives there are 6 steps in surrendering to Krishna. So, there are 6 steps. First step is to accept things which are favorable. Second step is to reject things which are unfavorable. Anukulyasya sankalpa pradikulyasya varjanam. This is the first 2 steps. The next 4 steps, they comes in the later stage. The first 2 steps are very important. Accepting things which are favorable, rejecting things which are unfavorable.
Okay.
So we will have one session on explaining this, the 6 stages of surrender. It's a gradual process.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Actually, the first step is, in the surrender is to hear. Tashrunu. Krishna is saying, just hear. Krishna is telling Arjuna in the beginning of 7th chapter, just hear, Arjuna, just hear from me. Just by giving oral reception to Krishna from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, our surrendering process begins. Our surrendering process had already begun, Prabhuji. As long as we continue to hear, we are actually surrendering. So, of course, there are many stages, in that. It comes later. The first step is to hear Krishna's instruction. Any other comments? Any questions?
No, thanks. I don't have the question. I have another call, so I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sorry, last week I could not, join because of the unpredictability. I got stuck in the traffic, So I was like South India with my mother's village near somewhere. And then, one of the, leaders, political leaders, he's like, because Tamil Nadu coming through an election. So because of that, the highway was closed and got stuck for a while. And then because of that, I could not do the class. So sorry for that, confusion last week.
No
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chandraji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. We'll continue next week from the next section.